Well, hello class. This is. I'll just say this. Okay, this is the only time this term that I will post more than two videos on the week. Okay, and I'm only doing this because I know that there's some new course jitters and some confusion and some questions, and I had some students stopping me and introducing themselves and asking questions and emails floating back and forth. And so I mentioned earlier today to a student I was talking with, one of the things that I've tried to do with this class is give you only as much as you need to know in the moment, okay? And the reason that I would do that is because oftentimes when it comes to career, things are not going to be cut and dry. They're not crystal clear. And part of it is trusting the process, right? Trusting the process and believing that, okay, so here I've got a class with an instructor. This is now, I don't know how many times I've taught this class for the last 6 years, every single semester. So I've taught this class a lot, and there's a method to what might some perceive to be madness, but there's definitely a method, okay? So here's what I want to do. I want to go through the syllabus really quickly, and I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm only going to go through what, again, you need to know, okay? And then I'm going to go through a little bit of kind of, not really lecture, but a little bit of content discussing and describing how I see this specific class fitting within the greater whole of therapy, of marriage and family therapy, of counseling. And I was reminded that you don't have to take this class. However, it makes a lot of sense that students do, given the fact that you can take this one additional class and you can qualify then to test for both the LMFT and the LPCC licensures. So that's a pretty sweet deal. And we'll talk more about the LPC. I don't know a ton about it because I'm not a licensed professional clinical counselor, but we'll talk about what all that looks like and how this class relates in certain ways and kind of what you can expect from what I've been told anyway on the test and how these things relate. So I want to go through really quickly the syllabus. Okay, so we're going to start, and you can look through all the information, go through the the program description, the course description. You will see that on the syllabus, and I'm looking up a little bit because I've got two screens open. So if you see my eyes going up, it's not because I'm rolling my eyes. I'm just reading. I'm reading the syllabus. Okay, so it says that this does meet the requirement of the Board of Behavioral Sciences in California to qualify for the LPCC. Okay, so you can go through and you can read that. Okay. One thing to keep in mind. That because this is the only class that's specific to career development in the curriculum, we're not able to go over everything, right? I'm going to pull a Marco Rubio really quickly. We will only be going kind of over a really cursory overview of everything, okay? So as much as I believe that, as important as this is, you're not here to go to school to get a degree to become licensed or even just counselors, career counselors in general. This will benefit you, I think, for sure, but that's not what you're here for. So we're not going to be able to cover everything. You'll look in the book and you'll see we don't cover everything, but we'll cover as much as we can in a short amount of time. And then you'll have these resources that I hope you'll hold on to because I do think that they're so valuable, okay? So you can read through the student learning outcomes and all this information here. What's really important to me, okay, is that as you are looking at these student learning outcomes, that you can, at the end of the semester, okay, when you do your idea evaluations and you give me as your instructor your score, your evaluations, how did I do? You're not judging me based on did you like me, okay? So if you like me, that's fantastic, okay? I like you. We don't know each other, but I like you because I like all of my students, okay? What I am hoping you'll judge me on is did you actually accomplish the things that I told you would be accomplished at the beginning of the semester, which is laid out for you clearly in the contract that is your syllabus, okay? So go through that. Excuse me. A couple things. Communication. Communication is incredibly important in an online class, okay? So during the normal 5-day work week, students should expect to receive a response to their email and voicemails within 24 to 48 hours, okay? Of not when you sent them, of when I receive them, which sometimes I may not get them for, a couple of days if I'm out of town, and then if that's the case, you'll get an out-of-office response, okay? If an email or voicemail has not been returned within 2 working days, you can then send your email or leave another message. Except in emergency situations, emails and voicemails will more than likely not be returned over the weekend, which is really important to keep in mind. So, the saying goes, a lack of planning on your behalf does not constitute an emergency on mine. So I say that not because I'm trying to be mean, but I want you to plan ahead. Okay, so if an assignment is due Sunday at midnight and you email me at 10:30 that night, I'm not going to respond because you should have been planning well in advance and sending emails with questions. And 10:30 at night, the day it's due, I'm likely going to be working on something else and not in my email, or I'll be asleep. Okay, so just plan accordingly and communication is huge, especially in an online class. Okay, I mentioned before you have required text and you have optional text. So there's I think 7 books from which to choose. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So pick one of the books listed under the optional texts. Okay, and I would say get that book sooner rather than later. If you haven't ordered it already, order it right away and have it in your hands so that you can start reading it when you have the time. Okay, as I mentioned before, this term will fly by. All right, so you got that. You can read through all the rest of the stuff. There's some great journal articles that may be helpful and so forth. Lots of recommended readings and blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is a graduate class, as you all know. No one's surprised by that. So we're really not going to spend a whole lot of time. If you go to page, 6, you'll see there's the Bloom's Taxonomy of Learning. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. I want us, for the purposes of this class, to really spend time in the upper echelon of that taxonomy. Okay? I want us to spend time in analysis and evaluation and creation. Okay, and application, although it's there in the middle, I do think that application is going to be much more applicable, if you will, much more important, much more relevant if you're able to not just remember and understand, but analyze, evaluate, and then create. Okay, so when I ask for analyses in a paper, I'm not looking for you to regurgitate. Okay, I'm looking for you to actually show critical thought and analysis of the content at hand. Okay, so read through the unit. You can see what's due. It's all laid out there very clearly for you, what the dates are for each unit, what we'll be covering as far as the topic per unit, and then you can see there's reading and assignments due on the far right-hand side. Okay, so you got what is it being read this week? Okay, what is due this week? So everything you see in that box is due that week. So let's look at Unit 2. Okay, so you have reading in Anderson and Vandehee, chapters 2 and 3. You have Liptak, chapters 3 and 9. And then you're going to start your vocation and calling reading, right? So that's why I'm mentioning you have to have the book, because you're going to start reading. Although it's not due next week, it's going to behoove you to get that book and start reading early. Okay, so that means that you're going to need to read all this content, specifically in Liptak and Anderson and Vandehee, prior to when you have to post on those readings, right? So you got to plan accordingly. So while you have time to respond, to think, to get in there, you shouldn't just be sitting idly by waiting for the due date of when you need to respond, because you can't respond in a thoughtful, thorough, competent way if you haven't actually done the reading. Okay, so in an online class, or really in any class, reading is essential in order for you to be successful. Okay, so you can read through all that content. It's all there for you. All right. So keep going down. And here's what I want to do. I want to spend some time really quickly on the forum discussions, okay? So, and you already know what your first assignment is, and I'm not going to get to the other assignments until later, so I'm just going to go over the forums, okay? So there's 3 things you'll do in the forums. There's the forum discussion, where students are required to post a 2 to 3 paragraph response to the current unit's reading, specifically from Anderson and Vandehee, okay? More often than not. These responses will serve as a way for the class to engage in discussion via threaded conversations. In addition to posting your initial response, each student will be required to post at least 2 times in response to 2 classmates' weekly responses. Okay? Feel free to bring outside sources to the conversation. Here's how it works. Instructions for your posting. Your initial post must be made no later than 11:59 seconds on Wednesday of each week. Okay, so next week, read Anderson and Vandehee, Monday, Tuesday. Post by Wednesday. Between then and Sunday at midnight, okay, you then should be engaging in discussion with at least 2 of your classmates on their posts. So if someone writes on your post and you respond to them, that doesn't count. You have to go out to 2 additional classmates and respond. Okay. There's no page count. There's no word count. There's no really length other than kind of use your judgment to have a 2 to 3 paragraph response, okay? And then your interaction, Again, there's no specific length that it has to be, but I do need you to make sure that you are thorough and thoughtful and complete in your response, and that you're actually engaging in a discussion. Okay, it's not just a hey, good point, period, but actually go back and forth in some discussion. Okay, make it worthwhile, make it thoughtful, make it encouraging, make it challenging, whatever it is. Be respectful, of course, but definitely make sure that it is a thorough discussion. Okay, hope that helps. And then you can see the point breakdown. Okay, so remember, Wednesday is your initial post, and then engage with at least 2 classmates back and forth between really Thursday morning at 12 a.m. and Sunday at 11:59 and 59 seconds. Okay, so you have 3 days to post and then 4 days to respond and engage. All right, so then you have your case studies. Okay, so during assigned units, you'll see that on the calendar. Students will read through a specific case study or vignette and will respond to the questions being asked in Sakai in the forum section of the site titled Case Studies Vignettes. Students are responsible for responding to each question with a thorough and thoughtful response. Responses will be informed by the content included in the respective chapters being read that include each case study or vignette. Okay? The length of each response will vary, and therefore no maximum or minimum page count is provided. Simply keep in mind the requirement to be thoughtful and thorough. Okay? Each response is worth 2 points. You are not required to engage. And there is no, I would say, specific right or wrong answer to the questions because no client, no case is going to be identical. And so I made, in fact, I'm actually, I'm sitting for a designation right now with the National Career Development Association. There's a number of case studies that I have to respond to. And so as I respond to them, there's no one uniform way of responding. There's some, I'm sure, suggested things, and you'll have some specific reading from the week, but just know that there is no right or wrong, but you need to be thorough and thoughtful, okay? So the responses to your case studies are to be posted no later than Sunday at midnight, okay? And again, there's no engaged back and forth. I will look at your responses, and I will give you a grade according to what it is that you have said in your post, okay? Hope that makes sense. Each of them are worth 2 points. And if you do all of them, then you get an extra 2 points, okay, for a total of 20 points. If you don't do all of them, then you don't get the extra 2 points, and obviously you miss out on the case studies that you should have responded to, okay? So I would encourage you, do all of them, and then you'll be guaranteed an extra 2 points, okay? Hope that's clear. And then lastly, you have your LipTAC 3-2-1 response, and this is very quick, clear. During each of the units, except Unit 4, students will read 1 to 2 chapters, depending on how it's laid out, in LipTAC's Treatment Planning and Career Counseling book. After completing the reading, students must provide a response to the reading in Sakai, following the format of 3 things you learned, 2 questions you still have, and 1 application item. Think about something that you could put into practice tomorrow. Okay? Make sure to be as specific as necessary so that your learnings are clear and concise. Your questions are meaningful, and your application item is practical and applicable to career counseling. Okay? In our circumstance, in the summer course, your 3-2-1 response is due no later than Sunday at midnight. Okay? So, forums, Wednesday, initial post, engaged discussion between Thursday morning, Sunday night. Case studies, Sunday night. 3-2-1 response to LipTAC, Sunday night. Okay? Everything should be written as much as you can in APA. If you're citing references, books, and so forth, make sure you cite them and provide the references, okay? So you're not even having the appearance of claiming something as your own, okay? So there's the syllabus. We've gone over the well-being assessment response paper. Remember to upload both documents at the same time to Sakai. And then next week or maybe the week after, I'll talk more about the vocation and calling analysis paper. And then in a few weeks from here, I'll talk about the final assignments, okay? So yes, you have lots of little things to do each week, but they're important things. They're going to help you to think, how do I apply what it is that I'm reading? So I'm a big fan of theory because theory is incredibly important when it comes to impacting and affecting practical application. So praxis is informed by theory, and theory is informed by praxis. Okay, so you can't have one without the other. They make one another better. And so I want you to think, how would I take these theoretical frameworks and understandings and put them into practice? And that's what you're doing on a weekly basis, along with some reading, some assignments, and before you know it, the semester will be over and you will hopefully look back and say, man, I learned a ton. So there's the update on our syllabus. More soon.